Hello, my name is Kate Jones, and I am here to introduce myself as well as give a brief overview of the articles that we looked at here from Module 1. So, a little bit about me. Uh, I've been a teacher for the last 12ish years. My family and I live in Union Beach, New Jersey, though we're originally from Brooklyn, New York. But we love it here down by the shore. It's a small town, and on top of all that, the kids get to go to school together, and it's just amazing and really convenient. Big New York Met fans. My son likes to play baseball. And personally, I love reading, listening to history podcasts, attempting to organize my life. One thing to know about me and my family is my sons, Richie is 9, Brian is 6, and both have some special needs. Richie is on the autism spectrum and also has ADHD, and Brian, my little guy, also has ADHD. So, I'm very sensitive to their learning needs, and really one of the reasons why I want to be in leadership is to kind of be there for children, kind of like my own. In terms of schooling, I went to Brooklyn College where I received my bachelor's degree in journalism before moving on to become a teacher and getting my master's in social studies 7 to 12. Most of my career, that's what I've been doing, teaching social studies. Though the good portion of my career, I was also the IB diploma program coordinator at my former school, St. Edmund Prep. Since leaving St. Edmund Prep, when I moved to New Jersey, I had a couple of virtual jobs where I was working for Hudson Global Scholars. I also worked for Fusion Global Academy. And now I work for, it's actually the first time in my life in public schools, Middletown Township Public Schools, where I am their ASIP, which is the Alternate School Intervention Program. Um, in school suspension, restorative practices, social emotional learning. I get to work very closely with the APs, which is really great for what I want to do in the future. I finished up the non degree certificate program, but in order to get my principal certificate here in New Jersey, I need to take 3 more classes. So here I am. So looking at these articles, and kind of looking at my own, how I feel about myself within my professional and personal feelings of ethics, I kind of looked through all of the articles and kind of thought, where am I in these areas? And honestly, I think professionally, I'm very mindful of my ethical behavior. And sometimes, though, I think personally, I can have that deficit just like anyone else. Am I always objective, or does my implicit bias get in the way? Am I always selfless? I like to think, that I would do anything I can for my students or if I mean even my own children. And sometimes you have to question, though, is that really what I would do, who I am? So that's something that I found myself looking at. But over and over again throughout these articles, I really felt the consistent message is consistency, and modeling, making sure that you are acting the way that you believe that the student should act. Because if you are not consistent in those actions, um, they're not going to buy it. In my role as the ASIP, I really see that every day. They know who's kind of being a hypocrite, and they'll tell you. So it's an interesting way to look at it. Couple of the way things that I noticed in this first article is that ethical leadership is achieved through trust, kindness, and optimism. In order to be an ethical leader, you have to model those behaviors. One of the articles I actually enjoyed the most was this one on personal and professional ethics. There are important common morals, but they're not always the same. You have to model professionalism at work, but sometimes when I'm home, I like to wear the sweatpants, that kind of stuff. So personal ethics may not be as valued as your workplace behaviors, and then vice versa. But some common morals: transparency, accountability, making the decision that does the least harm, being a punctual person. Those are standards that I think really do fit both. The article by Hollins really focused on the difficulties of meeting your own ethical driven standards with new challenges arising every day. And I think that probably we're seeing this in education now more than ever, brought on by COVID, but also just with constant new standards being put upon us by our districts, by the state, by the feds, however we want to look at it. Um, One of the things that came with this is this idea of being proactive versus reactive. Because if we're constantly being reactive, then we're not actually going to be able to meet the needs in the right way. By being proactive and consistent, there's more likely to be student and adult success. One of the other things mentioned in here that I thought was important is the idea of speaking out about policies that challenge your personal and professional ethics. So, if we are teaching to the test, for example, that might be something that is in the way of our professional ethics, right? Maybe we want to teach the whole student as opposed to teaching them only to pass the test. So, in terms of ethics in success of the student, we get a lot of insight here on how good students may not be perceived as good people or good employees. That we really need to focus on the whole person rather than just getting good grades. I'm sure we've all met people who are r- remarkably intelligent, but maybe they have weak personal ethics. Maybe they are not honest. Maybe they're not hardworking. Maybe they're not compassionate. And really, that is something that we should model for the students and also teach the students, teaching them to control their anger, teaching them to not focus on the negative qualities of others. I think those are some of the things that I took away from that article in particular. Also mentioned here: consistency, fairness, openness. However, focusing on professional goals comes up in this code of ethics for educators. It's our responsibility to get better at our jobs in order to be good ethical leaders. And we should make sure that we are focusing on our own growth in order to be the best possible leader and best possible teacher for our students. I really liked the ethical leadership toolkit, because it kind of focuses on how we can help each other. The key principles of professionalism and the established code of ethics are both great guidelines to kind of look back to. I love a list, so being able to have a list, put it in the back of your planner, and kind of ask yourself, am I making the best decision for the most amount of people? Am I making the best decision, the most ethical decision for my community? I think that that's really what I took out of the toolkit. And again, being trustworthy and being consistent, these matter quite a bit. In this article, what principals need to know about ethics, some of the tips, again, being consistent, being a role model. But it also reminds us that it's important that we provide adequate supervision, avoid inappropriate relationships, require proper use of internet. Some of the things that kind of struck me were that idea of requiring proper use of internet. How many times have I been working with students, and because things are just crazy or busy, I'm not looking at what they're looking at, and I know that they're probably not on what they're supposed to do. I need to be more consistent in order to model that consistency. Again, it's about maintaining the safety of the students and ensuring healthy interactions, and that's part of our responsibility. So, when looking at all of these and looking at myself, again, major takeaways were being consistent, not and being fair. Because when you're inconsistent and you're unfair, you lose credibility with your community. And the same, if you're seen as unprofessional, it's going to reflect poorly on teachers, on students, on the school community, especially if you're a principal and you're seen as unprofessional. It can really hurt how the school itself is looked at, and that can really go a long way. We have to be role models for students by modeling ethical decision making, and by showing what a workplace is supposed to look like, and also by showing them that they should be learning how to advocate for themselves and know what a healthy workplace is versus what isn't. Here's my concluding thoughts on the correlation. Obviously, this is very well connected to our standards, and showing how we can be good models, good ethical people for our students' well being. And it's relevant in that when making decisions and policy changes, it's important to be sure that our students will be positively affected. Personally, again, I have to always try to be open minded in my communications, try not to be judgmental, especially if I'm judgmental in front of students, which I don't think I am. But um, if you are overly judgmental, then students will pick up on that. But by being positive, you're inspiring a workplace of positivity. I actually have seen this recently in my own workplace. There's a new principal who is extremely uplifting, and there has been such an amazing shift towards positivity because of his positivity. And I could see the difference in just 2 months. Uh, Here are my references, and I'm looking forward to working with you all.